TextSplit is an amazing function that allows you to quickly split your text based on a delimiter into multiple columns or multiple rows. But it has a big limitation, and I showed this in my last video where I showed how to create all possible combinations using multiple lists. So let me first show you the limitation, and then I'm going to show you two workarounds of this. So let me first show you what is the problem with text split function. Here I have this data, and in this data I have the coffee type, milk type, and the size in one single cell separated by a pipe symbol, and I want to split it into three different columns, and I want to do it for the entire column here, column A. So I can use the text split function, and I can use this cell as the input, and then I can specify the column delimiter, which is going to be the pipe symbol. And now when I hit enter, it gives me all these three results in three separate cells. Now this is perfect, and I can just copy this formula down. But if I change this formula, so for example, if I come here and I use this entire array instead of just cell A2 and now try and do the same thing, you'll see that it only gives me the result in the column. It doesn't spill in the column as well as rows. So in this case, it is only spilling in the rows. It is not spilling in multiple columns. And this is somehow a limitation of text split that I did not know. So I started learning more about it, and then I realized that this is something that text split cannot do on its own. So in this video, I'm going to show you two workarounds to do this. So let me start with an easier workaround, and this method is going to work if you have a smaller data set. So if you have a couple of hundred rows, then this would work. But if you have a very large data set, then this method might not work. So you would have to use the second method that I'm going to show. So in this case, I'm going to combine all of these cells into one single cell. And once I have done that, then I would be easily able to use text split to split it. So what I'm going to do is use the TextJOIN function, and here I need to specify the delimiter, something that I'm going to use to combine these cells. And I'm going to use a delimiter which is not already there in the cell. So in this case, my delimiter is pipe symbol, so I'm going to use something else. Let's use an @. And now I'm going to ignore empty and then select this entire range. And now when I hit enter, it gives me the combined array in one single cell. So you can see all of these cells have been combined. I have the first three elements here, and then it combines an @. So I have cappuccino, regular milk, small, and then @, and then the second cell, and then the third cell. Now once I have this, I can use the text split function on this. So if I use the text split function, it first asks for the text, which is going to be the result of TextJOIN. Then I need to specify the column delimiter, which is going to be the pipe symbol. And then I need to specify the row delimiter, which in this case is going to be the @, one thing that I used to join these cells. And now when I hit enter, it gives me the result. It works perfectly. Now this is a very simple method, but there is a limitation, which is a TextJOIN limitation. So if I come here and I open the TextJOIN function help, you will notice that it can only accommodate a specific number of characters. If I scroll down here, you'll see it says if the resulting string exceeds 32,767 characters, it is going to give you a value error. Now in this case, I have these cells, I think these are 75 cells, and the total length is less than 2000 characters. So I can quickly check the length. So I can come here, not A3, A76. So these are all the length for each cell, and I can quickly get a sum of it. And this tells me that my overall character length was 1915, which is way less than 32,000. But in case you have something which is a large data set and the overall character length is going to be more than 32,000 characters, then the TextJOIN function will not work for you. But in most cases, this function works fine. But let's say you are working with a large data set, then what can you do? So let me show you a workaround in that case. So here again, I have the same data set, and I'm going to use the reduce function in this case to create a function that will combine everything and give to me with one single formula. So to quickly tell you about the reduce function, it takes three arguments. The first one is the initial value, and the initial value in this case is going to be something that is going to be taken by the lambda function that is going to be used in the third argument. So reduce function, what it does in most cases, it is going to go through this entire array that I'm going to mention, and then it is going to use the formula on the entire array and return just one single value. Now, a smart use of this is where I can just keep on giving it each cell and keep on combining each of these cells within the reduce function itself. So let me explain how it works. And for this, let me quickly open the help for the reduce function. So the reduce function here takes three arguments. The first one is the initial value, then there is the array, and then there is lambda function. So let me quickly explain how it works. First, I'm going to specify an initial value. This is something that is going to be used only once. So I specify the initial value, then I give an entire array which is going to be all these cells, and then I create a lambda function. Now within the lambda function itself, there is going to be an accumulator value and the actual value. The accumulator value is going to be something that in the beginning is going to be this initial value, but then you can keep on adding to it. And then in the end, this is going to be the result that the reduce function gives us. The value here is something that would be picked up by this array. So if I, let's say, give it this entire range of cells, then in the first round, it is going to pick the value which is going to be the first cell. Then in the second round, it is going to pick up the value that is in the second cell, and so on. And then in the body, it is going to be the calculation that I apply. Now, it sounds a little complicated, so let me actually create this and then show you how it works. So let me close this. And here within the reduce function, the initial value is going to be a blank. So I would start with a blank here, and then I need to specify the array. Now the array in this case is going to be all these cells. So A2 to A76, or it could be anything that you have in your case. Now I need to create a function. So the two things that I've started is this value, which is the initial value, and this value where each element is going to be taken up one by one with the lambda function. Now I have the lambda function here, and it again is going to take three arguments. The first one is going to be the accumulator. This is going to be the result. So in the end, when we get the result, it is going to be this value x that is going to be returned by the reduce function. So this is our, this x is going to be the accumulator. Then the next argument in this case is going to be another variable which I would call y. But what y does is it is going to take one element one at a time from this range. So to begin with, the value of y is going to be A2, which is going to be this cell. So the value of x is going to be blank, this one here, and the value of y is going to be A2. And then in the second round, it is going to become A3 and A4 and A5 and so on. So this is my lambda. And now I need to specify the function that I'm going to use. And here I'm going to use a vstack function, within which I would say stack the initial value, which is going to be blank, and then stack all of these values one by one, but not just as is, split them first. So to do that, I'm going to use the text split function, where I would say pick the first value from this array, which is going to be stored in y. So the text split takes this value y here, and then I'm going to split it based on the delimiter, which is going to be the pipe symbol, which is the delimiter here in these cells, and that is it. Now, if I just hit enter, see what happens. It gives me the result here, where the first row doesn't give me the right result. It has a blank and a couple of errors, but then below it is everything that I want. It gives me the right result here from the second row onwards, but I don't want the first row. So what I can do is come here and use the drop function, and this becomes my array, and I would say drop the first row because I don't want it, and this gives me the result. So I can copy this formula and put it here, and you'll see I've got the result here, which is perfect. And this does not have any limitation. You can use it with a large data set, thousands and millions of rows, and this should work fine. Now let me quickly again explain, because I know reduce function can be slightly complicated. So what I've done in this case is, let me explain in the formula bar. I started with a blank element. So I started with blank, and then I said this reduce function is not just going to run once, but it is going to run these many number of times, 75 number of times. And every time I want this to pick one cell at a time, starting from A2. So my initial value here is blank. My first value is going to be the value in cell A2. And these two are the values that I specify, that I initialize and put in the variables x and y. So x to begin with becomes the blank value, y becomes a2. Now I use vstack function to use x. So I combine x, which is the first row that was giving us the error, with the result of text split that gives us the splitted value of this cell, which is 3 separate array elements: cappuccino, regular milk, and small. Once I have got this, now this result vstack gives me, the first time it gives me 2 rows. First one was error, second one had the result I wanted. But then this value here, the accumulator value, becomes the result that I get from vstack. So now lambda function runs again. Now in x I have 2 rows of values, and y I have a3. So it runs again, and after the second run, vstack gives me 3 rows. The first one has error, and the next 2 rows have these 2 cells that have been splitted. And then it runs again and again and again. And finally, the reduce function gives me the result which is stored in x, which gives me everything with 1 extra row in the beginning. So I drop that row by using the drop function. So if you just think about it, and if you just go and read more about the reduce function, I'm sure you will get it. It is a bit complicated, but it is not that complicated. So this is another workaround that you can use with any data set to quickly split the text using text split function into rows as well as columns. So these are 2 workarounds that I could figure out. If you know of any workaround that has worked for you, please let me know in the comment section. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Also, if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you never miss out on any new Excel tips video I come up with. Thank you and have a nice day.